Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC Guy. In my last video on decoders, I mainly looked at sound decoders. But there's one class of sound decoders that I didn't mention, and that is decoders that produce sound but cannot produce the power for operating a locomotive. Digitrax makes these, they're called a sound bug, and SoundTrax makes one called a SoundCar. So I want to take a look at the SoundCar decoder today, and maybe in a future video I'll go back and take a look at the sound bug. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we move on, I want to remind you one more time to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Thanks now. Okay, before I start on the SoundCar, I do want to point something out to you. Recently, someone wrote me and thanked me because I pointed out how they could find my YouTube channel homepage and be able to get a list of all of the videos on the channel, because there's something like, I think this is maybe 220 at this point. But it's fairly straightforward, but a lot of people are not apparently aware of it. All you have to do is look below the image for each video, and there will be a separate little cameo type image of me and the title of the channel, Model Railroading. And all you have to do is click on that, and that will take you to the channel homepage. And right up at the very top, there's a menu bar, and just click on the one that says Videos. And that will give you a page that will list all of my videos in descending numerical order. So if I tell you to go back and take a look at video 55 or 130 or whatever, all you have to do is scan down that page. So have fun with the videos. Like I said, there's 220 roughly at this point. And one of these days, I'm going to put together an index of all of the videos with a short description of the material that I covered in each one. People have asked me about that in the past, but I just haven't had time to sit down and make up a comprehensive list like that. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about the SoundTrax SoundCar decoder. Okay, so let's jump right in here. This is a SoundCar decoder, and you'll notice they look very much like a current keeper or a tsunami decoder, and these have been around since about late 2014. Sometime in that time period when they were released by SoundTrax. Now, the thing about these is they have a variety of sounds pre-installed on them for use with various pieces of rolling stock. And you can easily mount these using double-sided foam tape. I don't have any on these yet, and just attach them to the inside of a piece of rolling stock. Then, if you want, if you're having problems with sound, you can use a current keeper. Either the original current keeper or the newer current keeper 2 from SoundTrax will work with them. They have the little plug and socket arrangement, so it's very easy to just plug them right in. And then you have keep alive or stay alive power to make sure that your sound doesn't drop out on you as you're using these decoders. So what does the SoundTrax SoundCar offer as far as sounds goes? Well, in addition to sounds, let me point out that they do lights. And they have a wide variety of lights, from your standard dimmable headlight, Mars lights, gyrolight, headlights of various kinds, the oscillating headlight, various single and double flash strobes, rotary beacons, stratolights, ditch lights of 2 different kinds, the Fred lighting effect, the exhaust flicker, the firebox flicker, and a dyno light. So you've got 15 different lighting features that work with these. And they offer the wiring for both the white wire for the forward headlight and the yellow wire for the red headlight, and then the blue common wire to power those. In addition to that, they have 2 additional functions, the green and the brown wires on FX5 and 6 that allow you to have additional lighting. So you could set up ditch lights or anything else. Now, why would you need ditch lights on a passenger car? Well, these were made specifically to be used also with cab cars. Now, cab cars are a type of car that's used in commuter traffic, and they're basically in a situation where you've got a push-pull set of cars. So you've got a locomotive at one end and then some coaches, and at the other end you have a coach basically that has a cab, a control cab at the end of it. And that allows the engineer to get out of the locomotive at the end of his run and go into the cab on the cab car and be able to control his locomotive when he's going to go back in the other direction. And he'll still be up front, of the consist and be able to see what's going on down the track and control things from there. And that's why this comes with horns and bells. So that, because you would have those on a cab car as well as on the locomotive in one of those push-pull consists. Now, as far as the bells, you have an option of a cast metal bell, you have an electronic bell, and you would have a gong. So you have those three different types of bells to select from for use on your cab. Now, as I said, you also have an option of various whistles. They come with three different ones: a Wabco E2 diesel, a Nathan K5LA that would be used on a modern push-pull setup, and a Hancock air whistle. And Hancock air whistles were often used on the rear ends of trains in the steam era on cabooses and also on some passenger cars. So you might occasionally see a hose coming up to a fixture on the rear end of, say, an observation car, and that might be a whistle, a Hancock air whistle located back there or on the rear end of the caboose, so that the conductor would have a way to basically communicate with the engineer up in the cab of the locomotive all the way from the rear end of the train using various whistle signals. So that's something that you could set up on a caboose, for example, and during your operating session, you could have your operators use the Hancock air whistle to communicate with your engineer. That might be more than a lot of people would want to do, but it's one example of a way that you can use these. So in addition to the horn, the whistle, the bell, there are a number of other sounds that you can control, some of which are automatic or can be made automatic, and some which are not. And specifically, I've already said the air horn and whistle, the bell. There is the clickety-clack sound when the wheels go over gaps in the rails. And that's a very distinctive feature that I think adds a lot to the sound of a train going down the track. In addition to that, there's for modern passenger cars and other equipment, there's the sound of a generator operating in the car. So you have the typical flange squeal sound that's common on many sound decoders. You have general wheel noises. There's an uncoupling sound. There's a coupling sound. There's a brake set and a brake release, a brake squeal itself, the retainer valve sound, an emergency brake valve sound, a handbrake set, and a handbrake release. So there is just a whole slew of various sounds that you can set up and control using this decoder. In addition to all the sounds that they offer on these, they also offer the ability to use advanced consisting so that you can use these with several of these in a train and have them linked through consisting, through advanced consisting, to your locomotive itself. And so that the speed of the locomotive controls the clickety-clack, and you can have various other sounds that are activated dependent on what you have chosen when you set up the advanced consisting CVs. So all of those are supported as well. So that's something that you might want to take a look at when you're playing with these, is using advanced consisting. You can also, if you have a Digitrack system or other, you can use these with what are called universal consisting, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But they also have something called smart consisting, where they have a magnetic sensor in here that you can just pass a magnet over it, and it will activate the programming feature. And then you press the F8 button on your throttle 4 times, and that will link the active Locomotive address to the decoder itself, to the SoundCar decoder, and you can then operate your Locomotive, and the clickety-clack will synchronize with the speed of your Locomotive, and various other features will be activated. In addition, you can still use individual sounds because each one of these has its own unique address, just like any other decoder. So if you're using one of these Digitrax throttles like this, you could have the Locomotive on your right-hand throttle, and you could have the SoundCar on the caboose, say, on your left-hand throttle. And you could still control the various functions in the SoundCar using this throttle to activate it, and then the various function buttons. Or you can just operate them through the advanced consisting features. Let me go ahead now and show you how to install these, because it's fairly simple. Now, what I have here is an older Athearn coach. Yeah, it's a coach. And I installed a SoundCar in here. So let's take a look at this installation. If you look here, I have drilled a series of holes in the bottom of the car so that I can install a speaker there. In addition, you can see I've installed pickups on this truck and on this truck. And these pick up from both sides of the wheels here. So I'm getting, but they only pick up from the front and the rear wheel in each truck. So this one is just along for the ride. But still, that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 axles that are providing electrical pickup, and we're getting it from the left and the right at the same time. So you get a lot of power pickup on these. Matter of fact, I found that on the passenger cars where I used all of these pickups, that I really didn't need the current keepers to provide sound power when I went over, say, a dirty track or a dead fog or anything like that. These were very good at keeping the decoder alive. Now, these particular sets of wipers, pickup wipers, were available from StreamlineBackshop.com, and I've talked about this in a previous video where I talked about various types of electrical pickups. And I'm not sure at this point if he has been able to get these back in stock or not. We know the problems everybody is having with getting things in stock and getting things produced due to COVID, so I'm not sure where we stand with these at this time. But at any rate, this is a valid option to use. Also, as I showed in a previous video, you could also use these pickups that are made by ESU for Loc Sound, and this is a 50707, and they call it their interior lighting current collector. You know, I'll put a link to that video above me here on my left, and another link at the end of the video, so you can go back and see how I installed these in a caboose. This would be a very good option. You could put multiples of these on the various wheels here on the bottom of a passenger car, a caboose, various other pieces of rolling stock. And back in the March 2015 issue of Model Railroader, I did a product review on this and showed how to use various of the other types of pickups that I also covered in the previous video on installing power pickups in rolling stock. So I will, like I said, I will provide links to those 2 videos up above me and also at the end of this video, so that you can go back and take a look at those particular videos and see what I'm talking about. So let's, at this point, I'm going to pop the shell off of this, and we'll take a look at how it's installed. Okay, my speaker is underneath of the car weight here, so you really can't see it, but it's just a standard 1-inch diameter speaker that fits right over this opening that I placed here. And then I just used a, I think I probably used some super glue or some gel type glue to hold it in place. You could use one of the gasket sets from SoundTrax that I think I showed you in previous videos on speaker installs. But let's take a look inside here because this is what's important. I do have the electrical pickup wires, the red and black here, and another set coming up from the truck at this end. So we have electrical pickup from both trucks coming in and feeding into the decoder. Okay, in addition, we have the two purple wires here that go to the speaker. Now, if we take a look in here, you can see that I have just placed the SoundCar decoder against the underside of the roof of the passenger car using a double-sided foam tape, just like this right here that I've used on this current keeper. And as you can see, it's held up here for, since 2015 was when I did this installation, actually late 2014. So that double-sided foam tape does a really good job of holding things over a long period of time. Now, the reason that you want to install these in the top of the car, they offer something with this called intelligent consisting. I might have called it smart consisting, but no, the term is intelligent consisting. And what that allows you to do is pass a magnet over the decoder itself, and that will flip a switch internally that allows you to then consist this particular decoder with the Locomotive decoder address that you're using to pull that train. But in order to be able to do that, you have to have the SoundCar decoder right here underneath of the top of the car. And that makes it possible to use intelligent consisting. You can still use universal consisting if you're using Digitrax or other systems that use that. You can still use advanced consisting if you wish. This is just a very quick method of consisting several cars in a consist, because you could have several. You could have 3 or 4 or a dozen cars with SoundCar decoders installed in them in a train, and all you need to do is run your magnet across the top of them, hit F8 4 times in rapid succession, and you'll be consistent. That's all there is to it. To break up the consist, all you have to do is run your magnet across the top of each car, and that will deactivate the intelligent consisting feature. And you can go back to controlling these individually or using some other consisting method. Now, as I said in the previous video about programming, SoundTrax is fairly simple and straightforward when it comes to programming. Still, because of the large number of functions and sounds and the like available to you, I recommend using Decoder Pro when you're programming these. It just makes it a lot simpler. However, SoundTrax has very, very good user manuals and technical reference manuals on the SoundCar, so you can download those and calculate individual CV values fairly simply, and they go through a number of different examples in the instructions to show you how to do that. But what I want to do right now is take you over to the Piedmont Southern, and we'll put this guy on the track, and then we will hook it up to a locomotive, do a universal consist, do an intelligent consist, and see what it sounds like. Okay, I've moved the passenger car over to the Monroe yard here and hooked it up to a waiting locomotive, a Southern Railway switcher. And let's listen to the bell. And this is the cast bell that I have installed here. So as you can see, that's a very, very distinctive, nice bell sound. Let's listen to the Hancock air horn. We also have a short air horn. Fairly straightforward as far as that goes. And I'm just going to run through a number of other sounds here on the function list. Okay, let's see if we can apply and release the brakes. Okay, so you got to hear that. So first was the application and then the release. Now let's take a listen to the coupler clank. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward sound right there, but just gives you an idea of some of the various sounds that you have access to. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do a universal consist, which is fairly straightforward. So I have the locomotive on my right-hand throttle here, passenger car on the left. All I have to do is say MU and hit plus, and the consist is made up. Okay, so what all I have to do now is open up the throttle. The locomotive will go forward, and because the passenger car is consisted to it, you'll hear the clickety-clack of the wheels as they cross rail gaps and various other flange squeals, that kind of thing, that you would normally hear with a car movement. So let's go ahead and listen to that. Okay, what I want to do now is I'm going to break up this consist, which is just all I have to do is hit MU and minus, and now they're independent. So what I want to do now is show you how to use the intelligent consisting feature and give you a quick demonstration of that. Okay, so the first step in this is to make sure that the locomotive is active on the throttle. Back it up just a little bit, okay, there. And then I'm going to take a nice little horseshoe magnet here and pass it over top of the decoder. And what you'll hear is you'll hear a brake sound, and that will indicate that it is ready to be programmed. I'm now going to run a magnet across the top of the car. And you heard the brakes, so let me go ahead. Okay, that air release indicated that we had consisted, so let's give a listen to it move now. And now to break up the consist, all I have to do is wave the magnet again. And that brake ratcheting sound indicates that the consist is broken up. So these are a fairly straightforward, easy to use addition to your passenger car fleet, your cabooses, your boxcars. They would be great in refrigerator cars because you've got that generator sound that you hear on those. And of course in the cab coaches or cab cars that are used in push-pull operations. So give those a try for one of your new projects that you want to take on to add the increased dimension of sound to your operations. Well, that's a wrap for today's video on the SoundCar decoder. You might want to give these a try if you're looking for a project to add to the operating enjoyment of your model railroad. Because, you know, one of the things that I do miss and noticeably missed some time ago on a model railroad is the sounds of the clickety-clack and the like, the generators and those kind of things that go along with trains. Because it's more to just than listening to the sounds of the locomotive. And the SoundCar gives you the opportunity to add that added dimension of sound to your passenger cars, your cabooses, your cab cars, and various other pieces of rolling stock. So take a look at the Soundtrack's website. They have manuals that you can download for free there. The user's manual and the technical manual on the SoundCar. Take a look at it and see if that's something that you want to add to some of your rolling stock in the future. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and we'll see you here again next week with another video from the DCC Guide. Bye now.